Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. I am Dr. Suman Saurav, a postdoctoral researcher at Advanced Digital Sciences Center, Singapore, and I'll be your host for today's panel discussion titled From Idea to Success, a Journey from Student to Entrepreneur, presented to you by the Cranium Club. Today, we look at the journey and the experience of both our panelists with the aim to help our viewers who want to embark on a similar path. People who are willing to risk more than others think is safe, who dream more than other think is practical. We discuss the challenges, the trials, and the revolutions that one faces creating their own startup, how to get around them, what skills, tools, and resources are there to help someone kickstart up their own startup or company. With this, I would like to introduce our panelists for today's session. First, we welcome Dr. Monica.
Hi.
Hello, Dr. Monica. Then we welcome Dr. Mehdi.
Hello.
Hello. Could you both please introduce yourselves to our viewers by telling about yourself as well as your company? Let's begin with Dr. Monica.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Monica. I come from a research background. I have a PhD in immunology from NUS. After that, I worked with Singh Health and Chugai Pharma under Roche Group for some time before I started my own entrepreneur journey. I'll tell more about that later. Currently, I'm working with my co-founder who's an AI expert. Our company is basically a software company into digital healthcare, particularly looking into remote monitoring of patients, particularly outpatients. That is when patients leave the hospital, that's when we provide them continuous monitoring so that as soon as the patient is at high risk, doctors can intervene and lead to better patient outcomes.
So now, before going to more general questions, let's begin with something slightly more personal. Like you might know, or as you would have seen, many people in their PhD have several different new ideas. Some of them are often quite marketable as well, but not all of them venture into entrepreneurship. For you, what was the main reasons and the motivation behind starting your own company?
Sure. So for me, I didn't have what I'm doing has nothing to, I mean, I wouldn't say has nothing to do with my PhD, but what I'm building is not something I built in my PhD. For me, I was quite open-minded in terms of what I wanted to do. I loved biology since my childhood, but I also wanted to try like working in industry and everything before I take a final decision where I see myself in the long run. That's when after my PhD I worked with Singh Health also were more on clinical translational research. Then I worked in a corporate setting for some time and I realized it's definitely not for me. And it was a chain of events, and during that time I lost one of my close family member to a disease. And then seeing her journey, I realized that there were many things that could have been done in a better way which could have saved her life. For example, like my aunt, when she had an issue, she had some severe infection like and 2 years back. And once she came back home, because the main hospital was quite far, and once she came back home, she did not take care of medicines and day-to-day symptoms. It was like, okay, it's fine. We tend to take this day-to-day symptoms like if we have fever, we'll just take paracetamol. We'll never be that seriously thinking about that it might be something else. And then she went to the local doctor and everyone, then we realized that. And then suddenly after 6 months she got like severe pain in the abdomen, and then by the time we went to the main hospital, she like had passed away. She had some infection which was developing over past like few couple of months. So that time the doctor mentioned, and it was like so sudden, and then doctor mentioned that it's a very 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 common problem where patients don't understand a small symptom can be really big thing. So I that was like that time I was still working with the company, but that had an impact on me. And I realized that anyway I'm working here like 14 hours a day, literally I was working 14 hours a day for them. I thought I would rather do something on my own and help solve such basic problems that exist in India. So that's how that was my motivation to start the company. And but I had no idea how to like where to begin with. I had no experience in entrepreneurship, but I joined an accelerator program where I met my co-founder, and that's how my journey started. So now what we are building is basically, my aunt was the inspiration, I would say, behind it.
So nice. It seems you had quite a personal journey, and I'm really sorry for your loss. But hope she motivates you to pursue even higher goals and make it better for other people who are having similar ailments.
Right. Fingers crossed.
Sorry, we lost you there, Dr. Mehdi. Welcome back.
Yeah.
And,
thank you.
I was going to ask you about to tell our viewers something about yourself and your company.
All right. So I tried to very brief on that. My name is Dr. Mehdi. I have graduated from NUS School of Dentistry at Ph.D. program in 2015. During my PhD, with the help of other friends and colleagues, we have shaped a company working on the novel platform for the cosmetics and pharmaceutical products testing. So this is the journey actually has been started for us, that we have joined and entered to the field of the pharmaceutical business. The company was live about 3 to 4 years. Then we have wrapped it up, and then we have founded another company in Australia, which provided much better platform for us to the growth. So we have started a new company in Australia under the name of Iborne's Pharmaceuticals, which is going to be a manufacturing company in Australia. The facility is now under construction. So the company we are looking at, it is going to be a pharmaceutical product manufacturing company doing the novel new type of the niche kind of products in Australia. So it's basically we have moved to the manufacturing segments. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question that we discussed is like, what are the main reasons that or the motivations behind starting your own company?
Sure.
Dr. Mehdi?
Yeah, sure. So the motivations, this is actually a very broad question you are asking for. Basically, the main motivation actually during our time was that we have we found a novel platform for ourselves, that there is nobody actually really offering this kind of platform to the industry. And we found that this is a quite unique chance for us to start and look into the market and start to do the commercialization. As you may know, there is a very big change in the trend of the PhD programs globally, actually. So the PhD programs are changing from pure science to some kind of commercialization and industry solution providing. So during our time, we found that our platform, which we have been developed, can be a unique platform for the industry. I was quite eager to stick my neck out of my PhD and check how the industry is working. And is there any chance that I can have a global impact with some technology I have? So I think this is the main motivation for me, that I was thinking that I do have something that it can work for the future, and I can make my impact to the industry as well. So I think it was the main kick for me that I started to look into the industrialization and commercialization of a product. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. Okay, so next we go to slightly more general questions. Among those, like we'd start with the questions like, how do you start up your own company? First, I would like to ask, like, given that you have an idea, like you begin with the idea, and what are the first important steps that one should take for converting this idea into some profitable venture or startup or company? Dr. Monica, you would like to answer this?
Sure. So I would say it's a step-by-step process, right? Let's say if I have an idea, first thing is always validating that idea. Because in my head, I might have 100 ideas, or I might have developed something during my research time, which might be useful. But there are many other things. First is validating the idea. Like, is there really a problem that you are solving? Rather than taking a solution first and then looking for the use of that solution, the best approach is always, if you look into all the YC and everyone, one very basic thing that they teach is look for the problem out there and then see what solution is basically you should be building. So it's always about finding the problem first, then see what solution you build, then after that converting in. And if you are really it's about value addition. If you are really providing some value, really helping solve some problem which is a real problem, like which is we call it more like painkiller versus vitamin. If you can find a problem which is like really like painkiller, it's always good. Even vitamins are fine because there are many, it's not always easy to find that painkiller problem. So as long as you're adding some value, it's good to begin with. Talking about converting into profitable business as such, it's a long process. Like profit is like a very broad thing. Basically you need to take into account how much cost you are basically it's how much cost is involved in building it, commercializing it, customer acquisition cost, and all those things. Then above that, what's your margin? How much can you really make? So that is something that would come at a later stage. But at a very early stage, as long as you have somebody who says that they are willing to pay for it, or who are doing the pilot for it, and then you see that okay, there are really people paying for it, I think that's a good idea to begin with, in my experience. Like, we really pivoted 3 times because of this. So talking to customers, doing the validation is really important.
Dr. Matthew, would you like to add something? Hello, Dr. Matthew? It seems we lost him again. Okay. No worries. We move on to our next question.
Hello.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. So basically, this is a very good question to ask. I'm sorry, but I think this site is not really suitable for the country I'm residing now. This is a very good question. Actually, you are asking what is the stages or steps to reach to the profitable venture. Well, I want to say, as Monica said, very good and concise. You need to have a validated idea in your head. So many of us, as during our PhD, postdoc, or even once we are converting to the university professors, we do have some idea, unique idea in our head, but most of them are not validated, and which is okay. You know, you have a couple of ideas in your head. Once you are going to validate them, you will find them they are not good. It's okay. You will find another one and you can run away with that. So it's really common that you have an idea that is not validated. But the thing is that having the validated idea is the very important thing, because this is something that you are going to live on for that, maybe for next 5 years. And if you didn't perform the good validation, you are losing your time. And it's quite natural that once you have a couple of ideas on your head, on your table, and then you look at them, and you will see that some of them is not good. The problem is that in the research area, in the university, all of us thinks that we have a very nice idea. We got the grant, we got the money, we have everything in our plate. The people are clapping for us. But once you go to the street, nobody even give you a watermelon for that, because it's useless. So, and you see that sometimes a very tiny idea, very simple idea, attracted lots of attention in the world. So this is actually the problem we are facing in the universities. I'm suggesting, if people are hearing me and they want to have they want to validate their idea, they do not really consult only with their professors, with their university mates or university people. They go out, they ask the people, they ask the industry. There's a lots of people. You can find them in LinkedIn, you can find them in lots of events. So this is very important. For myself, once I started the company, I had an idea in my head, and I wasted my time for 2 years on that, because then I found that this idea is not good, and I need to change my idea, and I go for another setup for my life. So it's very important that you have a validated idea. And I need to say, there's a very famous saying that 90% of the job is starting that job. It's very hard to kick the company. It's very hard. You should be very bold, and you should be very brave that you start a company. You want to go to the new environment from universities. If I want to say that how this happened for me is that I was kind of lucky that I was in a research group that they were quite supportive, and I had a chance to get in touch with the good people during my PhD that they pushed me, and they started to look at my idea and started to validate my idea. So they kind of pushing me into these segments, into the industry. So I learned what industry is looking for and what is the type of validated idea. And I'm really happy that if anybody wants to get my experience, I will share with them.
Oh, nice. Thank you for your answer. So all of this basically starts with an idea, and you partially answered the next question that I was going to ask.
I know I didn't really reply to your question. I just want to have very brief, but I just want to say there's stages to reach to the success, but the very first important thing is the first steps you are taking. The rest of them is coming. You don't worry about that. They will follow you. The money, the medical, the business, all of them is coming for you. The very, very first step is that you have the good idea and you can start it. That's it.
Yeah, actually, you partially answered the next question that I was going to ask. Is basically how. Yeah. So I was the next question.
All right.
Yeah. So the question is basically how do you tell if an idea is good or not? So since Dr. Mehdi already answered it partially for us, Dr. Monica, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure. Like for us, since what we started with, for me it was like a complete blank space. It was just a white paper. I had no idea what, I mean, I knew I wanted to do something in healthcare. I had my own motivation, but I did not know what solution to build, what exactly is the problem. So we went, I was first looking for a right person to begin with. So that was my journey. When I joined Entrepreneur First, where I met my co-founder, I had built like, I had formed two other teams, but eventually we did not work together. Finally, when I met my co-founder, who's working with me now, almost 1 year now, we bonded over our passion for healthcare. And he comes from IT, but one of the rare people who had worked in IT in healthcare, and he was very passionate. So what we had learned from the accelerator program was just go and talk to as many people as possible, find out their pain points, try to understand what are the problems they are facing. So we actually just randomly started, we mass emailed 500 doctors all over the world, and we just like wanted to understand what are their problems. We started with cancer because of our personal this thing. And we got to talk to almost like 70 to 80 doctors. And there were few things that all of them mentioned, no matter they were coming from India, they were coming from US. So we basically did all the testing, and then we narrowed down to certain points that they had mentioned. And then from there it was a step by step process. But eventually, even when once we started with that, since we were targeting India as a startup, we cannot do worldwide things. So we started with India, and then we realized that the problem that we were trying to solve at that time was more into the pathology part for cancer, more into the biopsies. Uh, to build the solution to solve the problem, we did not have enough digital images in India, because people were still using microscopes. They, unlike X-rays, which are more digitalized in India, there was lack of training data set that we were looking. So we're like, okay, let's see what we can do. We tried working with other hospitals in other parts of the countries, including Singapore, but they were already working with a lot of other companies, so there was a lot of competition. So then we actually like did all the pros and cons, and then we realized that maybe this is not the best strategy to go forward. Then we pivoted to remote monitoring, where we are now. And then how to tell whether the idea is good or not, again you have to validate it. So when you're working on biopsy part, people were like, okay, it's good to have, just like vitamins thing I was telling. It was like, it will help, it might have, once we have the solution and we get the regulatory clearance and all, it might help them making the things better, removing subjectivity, making the biopsies uh, reporting easier, faster. But they were not willing to pay, at least in India, unless and until it was proven. But when we were like, okay, this is already competitive space, and we don't really have any unfair advantage if we just start moving in that space now, because considering we are focusing on India. So then we again went back and started talking to the doctors that we were working with. But we were working on lung cancer. So I don't know, we got lucky or unlucky, whatever I should say, fortunate or whatever. These pulmonary departments, they got extremely busy with COVID. And then they started facing this problem where they wanted to have a system to track their patients who were in home isolation, or those patients who are just being discharged from hospitals. They had to track these patients, and they had no solution for it. So when we actually started talking to these doctors, that's when they mentioned, like, can we build something about this? Because they were getting a lot of calls. They had just so many patients. In general, also India has one of the like lowest doctor to patient ratio. In general, Indian hospitals are 7 times more overburdened. So we're like, okay, let's do, like, we can think about this. Then what we did, we wanted to make sure that we are not just basically doing this for COVID. We wanted to see that it is actually a long term thing, because we are spending so much time. If we are pivoting, we have to make sure it can be a long term business. So we again talked, like, mass email many doctors, talk to them, like, just have to talk to understand. There's something called product market fit, to know whether the idea is good or not. There are more and more people saying that this is good and this is what they would pay for. That's when you can say the idea is good. But that is also just on paper, the idea is good. execution is more important. Once you actually start executing it and once people are actually paying it, that's when there is product market fit. So we just basically built a small MVP for COVID, and we launched it in multiple hospitals, and we started getting good response. We kept changing our product, adding more feature, deleting some features, and that's how it evolved over time. So it's a gradual process. The idea is good if there are people willing to pay for it, if it is really solving their problem. So that's my short answer to this.
Okay. So basically, I'm just gonna summarize the answer for both, based on what both of you said. So we basically try to find the pain points, and we try to build a painkiller for that. If we get a painkiller, then well and good. Else we settle for the vitamins, I guess. Okay. Okay. So the next question that I would like to ask is, can you share what tools and resources are there to help someone kickstart their own company or startup? Dr. Mehdi?
I'm gonna say it's only you. There's no. So if you ask me, there is nothing. There is no resources for you. This is the journey you need to go alone. See, there are governmental funds, there are university funds, there are consultants outside, there are loads of people sitting out there, but none of them is really going to help you and pave the road for you. This is only you that you need to go on this circle. What I want to say that you need to be really clever in this way, and you start to use the resources which are, or the help they're offering, quite in a good and clever way. For me, during my time, I received lots of actually consultancy from different people from industry, which has been assigned by university that they help us to go on this path. But I can tell you, they are just a help. It's only a matter of you and yourself that you can continue on this job. It's very, very important for the PhD student or postdoc students that they do not stuck in their lab and they do not just look at what. See, in PhD, in postdoc, we are focusing on very, very narrow things in the science, because this is our job. We would like to move the boundaries of the science. So we just really focus on very, very small things. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's not going to happen in the laboratory. You need to be good listener. You need to be, see, in the PhD, in the postdoc, we learn how good we talk. Actually, we don't really listen. We write the articles, we go to the seminars, we go to the conferences, we keep going to the talks and talk to people, but we are not really learning how to listen. And it's very important. If you want to be really a good entrepreneur, you need to listen to the people, you need to listen to the industry, and you need to feel their pain, that you will provide for them a solution. In my case, during my studies in NUS, there are a group that came from US that they helped me a lot with the consultancy and checking out the idea I did have. So they gave me lots of good insight that how this idea is worth for the industry. I think I learned from them that how I be a critical thinker about my ideas, and what is the good idea and what is the bad idea and what industry is looking. But if you want really, and someone, I'm really sorry that I need to disappoint lots of audience here. But if you want to say that, is there any resources for you? There are very, very limited resources for you. And the main resource is yours.
Basically, like Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right? Think outside the box, and the more effort that you put in, your startup would be successful. The best resource that you have is yourself. Apart from this, Dr. Monica, anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, I would like, at least from my experience, because when I decided to start the entrepreneur journey, I really had just this vision that I want to do something on my own, and I was very sure about it, whether I get funding or not, because I did not raise funding from Entrepreneur First. We literally bootstrapped for 5 months, but that was like one vision. So of course, as Dr. Mehdi said, it's only you, but there are a lot of things that did help me, and there are a lot of good resources out there too, which basically teach you basics to begin with. For example, I was saying, for in terms of resources, like YC Startup School has really good resources out there. They have free videos, it's free and anyone can join. They have weekly updates. It's like the best, like mecca of startups, basically the best resources you can get, and they really teach you things which I missed out in my PhD or while working as a researcher, that how to basically validate things, how to look into things as an entrepreneur and not as a researcher, because that was for me, that was the biggest learning. And apart from that, like they start from very basics. What idea do you have? How many users have you? How many potential people have you talked to? Potential customers have you talked to? What were your learnings? And if you learned, because at the end the market is competitive, right? There might be 100 things out there. And if you actually, then they give a very good example. If you notice, like even if you go in India or Singapore, wherever, if there is one lane with all the grocery shops, it will be all the grocery shops, right? So theoretically that's more competitive. Why would you have so many but that's how it works. Like the market is big enough for all the people out there in the same space, but you have to see what is your unique advantage. So if you think about a grocery shops, they all have same things. It might be coming from all same brands, but it's about the user experience. What have they learned? What's the relation they have built? So there are so many things that they actually teach you, which I would never think about. So even once you validate your idea, you have, say if I have 5 hospitals, how do I make sure that they work with me and not any other potential competitor? So that's an entire journey. So customer relationship and everything, so they teach everything. So I would say that's pretty good resource which is free for use. Then there are like entrepreneur first, antler, 500 startups. There are many other accelerator programs that one can join, and they also teach you pretty much the similar things and more hands-on, because there you are actually doing things. Now it's more remote, but in general pre-COVID world and hopefully post-COVID world it might be more in person. So there are a lot of and then similarly there are many courses that I did in my PhD from Coursera, just to get basic understanding of entrepreneurship and how to validate an idea. Of course that was more like a theoretical knowledge. So again, as Dr. Mehdi said, it's just you, and you are either you can or you cannot, but you get those basics, and then you actually start implementing those in practical world, where you go and start. If I learned that okay, to validate idea I have to do XYZ, now is the time when I can actually do XYZ. And then so these are some of the open resources that are there. Second thing, I think that at least worked for me, or I wouldn't say worked or not, but something that I tried was reaching out to people on LinkedIn. There are like really a lot of people who are really helpful, and it's a number game. If you message 50 people, maybe 2 or 3 might reply. But if you are able to talk to those 2 or 3 people, like I generally try messaging doctors who are generally very busy, or people in the pharma industry, or people who are in healthcare space. Many times I talk to them and I get to learn a lot of things which I otherwise would never learn, and that those things still like really help me shape my idea. So it's about continuously talking to people and just learning things. And resources, you can always Google, it's full of resources, just to basically, which will give you basic understanding of things. And at the end, it's just you who has to do it. Nobody else can force me to do things. That's why somebody is going to be an entrepreneur. You are on your own.
Summarizing what you said is you can rely a bit on some resources like accelerator programs, resources on the web and all, to start up with the basic knowledge. But the effort that you have to do is you have to put it in yourself, and there is no substitute for effort. Okay, so moving on. The next question is basically like starting your own business is something like of a roller coaster. You might have seen as of now. So there are highs and lows, and every turn that you take is basically another twist. So some lows can be really lows, where like one might have to work on several months without a salary or without resources. So in such context, such a possibility is like survival in itself. How do you prepare for this? Like, what are the chances? Like, what are the things that you do to prepare yourself for such an eventuality?
Okay, I'll go first. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So basically, it's about having that mindset that no matter what, this is what I want to do. Like I personally had a lot of, because I don't come from a business family. I come from a normal middle class Indian family with that job mindset that okay, get a job and that's your lifetime thing, right? Keep evolving. So when I told them I want to move into entrepreneurship, leaving a company job that I had just got 6 months back, they were first of all very surprised at what happened. Why are you doing this? And even when I did not raise the funding and they're like, okay, apply, go back to job. I'm like, no, I don't want to go back to job. I literally had hard time with my family explaining them this is what I want to do. So not complaining, but this is how, because they are not used to it. But for me, it was more about no, I definitely want to do this. So I had to really plan. Like I was, as you rightly mentioned, like we did not have funding, we were bootstrapping. So I had to see what all savings I had. And when I was working in the company, I was living in my own studio apartment. Then I moved to a sharing apartment with just one room, because I like, okay, I need to cut down on my savings. But eventually, I would say, even when I was working in a company with good salary versus what I'm doing now, the in terms of satisfaction, what I get now is nowhere compared to what I ever got working in a company. So it's all about what you actually want. In terms of planning, definitely, you do need to plan how much time can you go without salary, or without, or the bare minimum things, resources that you might have based on your savings and your background, whatever it is. And based on that, you come up with a plan. Like for example, me and my co-founder decided that we'll try for 9 to 10 months, and we'll make sure that we do the right things, as long as we are able. And only thing that we wanted to stick to was talking to people, talking to doctors. And we actually went to India and visited 10 hospitals, and to understand how the things are there and how we can make things better. So once we started doing that, we realized there are really a lot of things that can be done. So that's when we got confidence. And so basically everything for us was related to really talking to users, understanding their problem. Once you really understand what the problems are and you are solving those problems, you will get funding. You will, if you have traction, if you have product market fit, you will get funding. And it's eventually, of course, execution and all other things. But it was all about just understanding the resources and the basic bare minimum things that we could do, and coming up with a timeline that this is in the worst case scenario, things go wrong, then this is after 9 months, then we'll just see what we can do then. So we had this timeline planned as per our savings and as per our commitments.
Dr. Mehdi, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, actually, I talk about that what we don't learn about being entrepreneur during our PhD, but we learn something that which is overweigh all of that. We learn in the PhD that how we
Dr. Mehdi, the question is basically like, given that there is ups and downs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to talk about that.
Sorry to interrupt you.
So basically, it's fine. It's fine. So in the PhD, actually, we learn how we can stick to the one straw, the last chance we have. And this is the unique things about the PhD. So I think that during the PhD made me quite can tolerate that eating working without any salary for a couple of months, be in a startup. The normal practice that you do not have a good salary for a couple of months, or you don't even have any salary for a couple of months. I remember once I started my company, I was waiting for some news from one of the investors. It takes about 4 months that I get the news, and I was really broke. I didn't have any money. The last month, I just booked a ticket, and the last money I had, I just booked a ticket to go back to my country, and I just reserved whatever I have. It was about $500 or something for 1 month to eat myself, to feed myself actually. So it's really natural. When I had only $20, they called me, so I canceled that flight. Then I stayed in Singapore. So it's really natural that during this kind of phase you will have them. You need to really be prepared for that, and I think PhD will prepare you for this kind of situation, because the PhD is the situation that, or the even postdoc is a situation that you are really down. Suddenly you will be you are disappointed, and you think that you lost everything. Then somehow you will see a tiny light on your petri dish, on your research articles or somewhere. So this is something that you learn in the PhD. But as you mentioned correctly in the question, Monica recapped it very nicely. It's quite natural that you do not have any money, you do not have a good salary, you do not have a much of income for a couple of months. And this is the way. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to be prepared for them. This is your decision. But if you want to just get your salary as a postdoc, as a professor, university professor, or blah blah, this is another condition, and you can go for it. You have a security, but being an entrepreneur, you do not have a security. So you need to be really careful. And that's why I'm saying that the only resources you have for being in this condition is yourself and nothing else.
So basically, you have to plan ahead a bit and be prepared for any eventuality. Like have a plan A, plan B, and plan C for even.
Someone, I'm telling you, it's happened for you 100%. It happened for you 100%. No matter what. I'm more than five of my close friends in Singapore right now are having their own company. All of them faced the situation that they didn't have any money. They just eat all of their savings, then they bought their own ticket to go back to their home because they thought that there's no chance and they are broke, and somehow they came back to the game and now the good news is coming. So it's always like that. It's really like that. You will get.
I totally agree. So basically, like sustaining a successful business is a lot of work, and like staying hungry is half of that, right?
Yeah.
So you have to want it sufficiently to keep banging it. So okay.
Yes. You should really prepare for it.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Like,
I'm telling these things is that because I'm telling these things because I was prepared by NUS. They told me if you want to be an entrepreneur, these things is happening. So once it happened for me, I was quite okay with that because I said, okay, this is my decision. This is what I have decided to go on. Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Okay, so we move on to our next question, which is basically, okay, so there is this quote by the current US president, which says that as long as you're going to do thinking, think big. However, like this, like when starting up a startup or a company, you might need some capital. And what are the challenges in securing a market share in the currently competitive economy? I guess Dr. Monica has already talked a bit about this where she said like you have to talk to a lot of people and you have to establish like what the pain point is in order to get a successful product. Apart from that, are there any generic challenges that one faces while like looking for capital?
Okay. Do you
Okay, so let's do this. So last time, whoever answered last answers first this time. So we begin with Dr. Mehdi.
Okay, this is the rule. All right. So basically, see, the capital is not something you guys should be worried about. If you have a good idea and it's validated, there's a load of people out there with a big amount of money, and they would like to invest on that. So it's not really something you should be worried about that. As I said, it's more important is that you are be prepared for this process that you are going to enter on that, and you have a good idea, and you are saying that this is a competitive economy. I don't think so. It's really competitive economy, honestly speaking. The competitive economy is not for startups. The competitive economy is for generic players, for the commodity players. We are talking about being a startup. We are talking about being innovative. We are talking about providing a solution globally. We are talking about the global impact. So you guys should not really worry about the competitive economy. You guys should not really worry about the investment because the people are coming. There are lots of people. You cannot believe, I'm telling you, you cannot believe how many people are going to invest on your market share. Yeah.
Dr. Monica, would you like to add something to this?
Sure. So I would say first, from my experience, the learnings that we had, the most important part, I would say there are three things that, from investor point of view, if we're talking about fundraising and getting investment, one is it's all about storytelling. If you have very good product, but if you are not able to make a story around it, why you did this, what is the problem, what is the solution, why you, and the team, which is more important. If there is a very clear, free, like flowing story that, okay, this is this, if it makes sense, very easy to understand without any technical jargons, your half of the work is done. It's really about storytelling, and I never knew it can be that important. Like we literally, when we had our pitch in Antler, we spent almost 10 days just like changing the storyline. Each and every word mattered there. So based on the feedback we got, so that was one important learning. And even when I attend this Y Combinator school every week, so it's all about at this early stage, like pre-seed angel investment, or at a very early stage when the company has still has not reached a stage where they can say that there is complete product market fit or it's growing. Till then, it's all about how well can you sell. And the second thing is basically sell, also just sell your vision. What's your vision? How do you see world would be different with your company in say 5 years down the line? And why are you the best people to do it? So second thing is always like one story, and of course equally is team. So what I'm trying to do, am I the right person to do it? If I'm, let's say, being a biotechnology, if I want to do something in telecom, that will definitely be a not that will not be a fit. So
Right.
similarly, there has to be a fit, like what's your skill set officially. There's nothing wrong in trying to do something if that something motivates you, but then from investors, it's not a very positive sign. So at the end, it's about your team and the team skill set. Does it match with what they're trying to do? Third is basically in terms of competition. If it is really competitive space, they would definitely look for how are you different from other existing players, what's your unfair advantage. It doesn't have to be very technically, it doesn't have to be like, it's not possible to have patented technologies all the time, but even simple industry insights you might have, or something that you learned from your users by continuously talking that others don't understand, or even a team, like you might have some very hi-fi advisors to advise you. So those kind of things, basically what are the unique things that you have but others don't have, that showcases investors that this is the right team. Because at such an early stage, it's a big bet for investors, that they believe that okay, this person has this skill set, and they have the right advisors and mentors to guide them, and what they are working on with the traction they have so far makes sense. So that, and along with this, can you make a story and tell in a very concise and clear way in 5 minutes? So that's
Okay.
how it catches the attention, and then like okay, that is like I would say 90% of the work done. But after that,
So
of course, there are
basically, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, that's all.
Yeah. So okay. So basically, you have to either bring in some innovation, have a very good team, sell your product well, and be marketable. So
Exactly.
these are the key points that one requires, like in getting capital. Okay. So given this, like there was one question which from Facebook, I think, which asks like, how do you choose a person as a co-founder for your startup?
Like in my case, I wanted somebody, because it's eventually a decision. It's just like a marriage, like you are going to stay with that person probably for 10, 20, 30 years. Like you don't know, so have that mind that how well do you go along with that. Can you really tolerate that person? And what about the vision, what about the values? Like it really depends on person to person. For me, I wanted to find a co-founder who was ready to take the leap of faith, and no matter we get funding, we don't get funding, continuously keep trying till the time. And of course have a, because he also might have some other commitments and I also might have some commitment, but at least try for certain point of time and learn and accordingly see. So, and also at the same time respect each other. uh, I wanted somebody like, I'm someone who's like very open minded, but if you tell me I'm bad in XYZ, I'll very happily understand that. But I want somebody who can do open communication, and there is mutual respect and have the same vision. Those were my three basic criterias. And someone who doesn't get angry. So like so easily. So I had like those kind of things, someone very friendly. So for me, I got lucky that when I joined Entrepreneur First, I met Dheeraj, who's my co-founder, and we really go well along with each other. So that's how. But before him, it was not easy. Like I formed teams with three other people, and then we tried working together for 1 week, 10 days. And during that time, we realized like how we behave when there is pressure, when there is like pressure situation, and if we don't get funding from Entrepreneur First, then what do we not work? Do we still continue to work together, or do you have some other plans? So I had those kind of things which I tried, and eventually I realized that no, those were not the right things for me. And finally, when I met Dheeraj, that's how I basically. So it's more about like they call it speed dating. You really try working with someone, and if you don't like it, if you feel no, this is not working out, just break up. We had this breakup party actually in EF where we literally celebrate all the breakups and the successful teams who feel that okay they can go ahead. We like celebrate that. So it was more about understanding the personality and really like how well can you work together, and of course complementary skill sets. If I find somebody who's another PhD in immunology, does not add any value in my startup. I wanted, because I come from bio background and I had some industry experience, but of course I wanted somebody, I did not want to go in hardware side, that was not my priority. I wanted to go in digital space. I wanted somebody who has a relevant background and also is interested in the soft skills and basically the technical skills. So that's how I
Dr. Mehdi?
Yeah, like Monica said, that it's like marriage, so you should be really fussy about who you are going to marry. This is actually normal. You don't marry every day, so basically you should be really fussy about that. To me, the most simple answer to this question is that you will bring somebody that brings an edge to your company. So there's a new dimension for your company. If you love somebody, if you like somebody, if somebody is funny, if to marry someone, you marry with someone because you want to evolve and go to the next level in your life. This is exactly like this. You bring someone as a co-founder to your company because you want to bring your company to the next stage, next level. Uh, this is, I think, you should really bear in your mind. And this is actually quite a normal mistake among entrepreneurs, that they select bad partners or not really suitable. I'm not saying that, not suitable partners. And after a couple of years, they will face major challenges, and they fail in their start. Yep.
So basically, your partner and you need to be quite compatible. You have to have compatible partners, as well as the partners bring something new to the table, and both of you should be equally motivated, I guess. Okay. Another question from Facebook is like, how important is it to have an exit strategy?
This is not mandatory, my friend. You can avoid any exit strategy. Nobody telling you that you start a business and you should sell it. If you want, you keep it for your family. You give it to your next generation, next generation, next generation. It doesn't really matter. It's not really important. But if you want to just bang and go, yeah, it's very important that you have a exit strategy. It's really different.
Okay.
Yeah, I would completely agree with Dr. Mehdi. Like, it's not at all a requirement that you should have. It's up to you. Like, if you ask me, in the best case scenario, I would want my company to go on forever. I would never want to sell it. Right. But if, let's say, if some offer comes and all, but of course it's nowhere in my pitch deck, or never something that I thought about it, that no, by 2025 I want to sell my company at this price. Of course, it's good to have. There's nothing right or wrong, but it's not compulsory. At the end, of course, it's, people ask you, investors do ask you this question, and you should think about it. For example, if I'm into digital health, potentially who might, what's my exit strategy, who are the players out there who might want to take my business, so who might want to, take my company. So I have to think about in those terms, so that just to show that, okay, these are the potential things that can happen, and these are the things who might be, these are the companies who might be interested in buying us. But it's never a compulsory thing. Yeah.
So this question also, like, for brief answers, like, some say that PhD is like, even after you fail 1,000 times, you still try. Does PhD training, like, how has PhD training helped you in, like, starting up an entrepreneurship or like startup?
Okay, since I answered last, I'll start first. So I would say there are two, three potential things. One is, there are many people who develop something in PhD and then they commercialize that. That's one way. But in case you don't want to do that, or you don't have something to do that way, there are many soft skills that really help you in entrepreneurship. For example, one is patience. We really learn how to be patient, looking for answers, looking for results. And same thing you need in entrepreneurship. You need to be really, really patient. Whether with your product market fit, talking to customer, getting investment, it can take forever. And you need to keep troubleshooting the way you do in your PhD. One is, so basically, and second thing I would say is like resilience that you develop in PhD, and the teamwork and leadership, in terms of, at least when I was in PhD, I had a lot of people under me, like research assistants and FYPs and all. So that's, and now I have to take those TA, teaching assistant on. So that's how you actually start developing some skills which you don't even realize, that you are managing people and you get their feedback and you try to improve how you are able to, manage a team. Because that's eventually is important, because as an entrepreneur, as a first time entrepreneur, now I have few people working with me. I had no prior experience like that, where I'm really having people under me. So that way, I think PhD really helped me. And in terms of the feedback, having growth mindset, that okay, I know I'm not an expert, this is how I do things. I Please feel free to tell me what are the things we should do as a team together. That's something we do as a PhD as well, because when we are working on a project, we have it's collaboration projects most of the time, working with different universities in different countries, different people in the department. So those skills, soft skills, do help a lot in entrepreneurship, where you have to work with different people. But I would say these are the pros. If I have to talk about on the negative side, from a PhD perspective, I think we become so engrossed in our field, and whatever we develop, whatever we work, we love it so much that we become blinded to the potential challenges. We feel that no, like I developed an essay in my PhD, which I thought initially I will take it and it will become a big thing. But when I actually started talking to people, and I realized no, that was just in the research part. So of course at that time my 4.5 years were all around that technology, right? So going and actually seeing the reality is very different. So you have to be very open minded to that it's fine, you learn something and doesn't necessarily have to work for
Okay.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Mehndi, anything you want to add?
Actually, Monica gave a very good opinion on that, and I cannot more than agree more than that with her. I said during my answers as well. The PhD is the phase that you learn how you fail and you go up again. So this is actually about the PhD. You keep failing, and once you get success, you will go for the publication, talks, everything. They give you even the PhD certificate. So basically, this is the life. This is the entrepreneur life. You keep failing, and you will see a very tiny, tiny light, and then you go for it, and then you will open the doors, and you will see a bright world. So this is actually exactly like PhD. The PhD teach you how to be patient, as Monica said, how to be collaborative, and how you do not get disappointed easily with hearing no answers from many people. This is actually is like a PhD. You are not really go smooth in entrepreneurship.
Okay. Any advice that you would like to give our viewers, like who want to set off in a similar path?
Okay, it's my turn then, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think, the advice I do have is quite general, but I'm sure most of the PhD and postdoc are not really taking seriously. If you have any idea, if you think it's worth to get validated, just go for it. You have all of you guys have something that's worth to go for the commercialization. You just need to dig for it and have some bold decision on that you want to go for the market, you want to do the commercialization. For sure, you have it. Just go for it.
Yeah, I
Dr.
would
Monica?
totally agree with Dr. Mehdi. That's exactly what I was going to say. Just go for it. Like even in my PhD, right? I always like, okay, I want to try this, I want to try that, but I never did. So I was like, okay, maybe I was not sure. Like, is this the right time? Though I was sure that at some point of time I want to do it, but I always question, is this the right time? But now I realize there is never going to be a right time. It's as soon as you start, it's always better. And also, it would also help you learn whether or not you are suitable for entrepreneurship. Is this something that you really enjoy? Because I had friends who tried things and then they realized that no, they are not good for, and entrepreneurship is not something that they would do. So they eventually basically went back to the jobs that they were doing, and that's completely normal, right? And it's good because now they understand, no, this is what they like. Until I started my entrepreneurship journey, it was all in my head. But I never knew I will enjoy something this much, like to the extent I do. I never knew I'll have this much craving for doing something on my own. The entire journey, the ups and downs, there are 99 downs there for one up, I'd say, but it's still, as you have to hear no, 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 but that's fine. That's the phase, right? If you really go through this, that's when even a small victory seems big, and that's when you can actually celebrate that. So that's the entire journey. And I think if you just enjoy the journey, you can always do things, but you have to start. So as Dr. Med said, just go for it. Just go for it. Don't wait. And there are a lot of good resources. There are a lot of people out there who are helpful. Like I was just last thing, because I wanted to say, like, we look at those media things and all. It They show more of negative things, but when I talk to people, there are really very helpful people out there. Just go talk to people. There are people willing to help you, willing to guide you. Just start. Yeah, just start.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
like
Just
Dr.
start,
Monica,
you will see it. It's
Yeah.
coming to you. It's coming to you. Exactly.
so like Dr. Monica said, like a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So begin. So bring in some innovation to the table, work hard, sell your product, market yourself well, and then you'd most likely have a good successful startup, and that would help you quite a lot. And don't worry too much about relying on others. Rely on others as well. Have good partners, establish good relationship with people, network, and that really helps in building a good or decent startup, and would help you in your startup journey. With this, actually, we would like to end our discussion for today. I would like to thank both Dr. Mehdi and Dr. Monica for being a part of today's session and sharing your thoughts and ideas. And I also thank all our viewers for their love and support. Please consider following us on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn for more such interesting videos. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Monica.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.